Phantom Covert Ops was released in 2020 by Dreams on the Unreal Engine. It combines the rather basic FPS stealth shooters with, well, kayaking. Metal Gear Kayak, if you will. A pretty standard entry, this game focuses more on becoming a shadow. Distract enemies to avoid being spotted, only dispatch tangos if absolutely necessary, and paddle your way to victory. However, there's a few things that I think it gets wrong. So let's take a look. This is a stealth game, albeit you don't even need to stop for 90% of enemies on the two easier difficulties. You can paddle past someone looking right at you as long as they don't have a beam of light shining directly on top of you. The stealth gameplay was near non-existent in most areas, and then 10 times more difficult in several others. It felt satisfying gliding around enemy after enemy, but after a while I just wasn't worried about being seen. After playing the game a second time on max difficulty, it was a fair bit harder, but still felt too easy in most open areas. Due to this, I have concluded that the hardest difficulty is the best way to get an immersive experience out of this one. The controls for the kayak were mostly responsive and felt easy to use. I didn't really feel the effect of any motion sickness, even though you can move pretty fast. Coming on to the guns, I found the gunplay to be basic but satisfying. I love the fact that the sniper would bind to your right eye when you raise it, forcing you to close one eye to shoot using the scope, and using the iron sights on the pistol to properly line up your shots. They're basic shooting mechanics in VR, but still just too good not to receive my favour. However, I never did use the submachine gun, nor felt it necessary. The game doesn't really put enough enemies with sightlines directly to you at any time, so you can easily dispatch most just with the pistol. Plus, punishment for killing enemies doesn't really help to encourage experimentation with other weapons. I like the change of weaponry halfway through the game, but to be honest I believe noisemakers could have been utilised much better. I forgot I had them for the first levels, as most enemies don't even look at you, or there are already distractions in place for you to shoot. And in the later levels you get C4, which could be used in the same way to distract enemies, but I never found them worth the risk of getting an accidental kill and immediately losing my S rank. Now, with the gritty negativity out of the way, let's go over what was great. Using a kayak and a flooded military base is hugely unique. I love the idea. However, the distractions and other gameplay mechanics aren't very unique by themselves. The game can't do much more with the military setting, but I wish there were more unique interactions and the like. It really would have rounded the game out sweetly. I absolutely loved the soundtrack, it really helped me get immersed. However, the music would glitch and just stop working or change from high intensity to a pretty boring song every now and again, which kind of ruined the tension that the game spent so much time to set up. I really enjoyed collectible hunting. Well paced, hard to find, but they never overwhelmed the atmosphere or slowed the story. The perfect way to do collectibles. However, the plush alligator jump scared me the first time it exploded, so minus points. I mean, it wasn't my fault. I was expecting an alligator to jump out of the water the entire game, and then I'm holding a plush alligator and the woman over my headset says, "Be careful." She's talking about a joke, but I thought it was going to, like, you know, an alligator was going to come and jump the collectible. I didn't know what it was. Coming towards the end of the game is really where Metal Gear Kayak stands out as its own item, and not just another copy and paste title. The two bosses of the game were well set up, really well executed, and equally fun. The tense distraction of the sniper and snapping of support cables was excellent, felt really tense and fairly paced too. And in just the best kind of juxtaposition, finally killing that damned helicopter in a fast-paced, slow-mo standoff was even more satisfying. And, better yet, the bosses didn't clutter up the flow of the game, and both came in at fairly believable times, not just to pad out game time. And once everything was said and done, kayaking off into the sunset while helicopters fly overhead and you're finally free felt so damn good. The getting out safe ending is so much more satisfying in VR, when you've been surrounded for 3 hours by fog and algae in your own sweat because it's 30 degrees plus outside.
If only the public could know what happened
I got more chills from this game than I think any other. It was great, and although it's a slightly older title, it did feel like a breath of life back into an overly stagnant genre. If anybody asks me a list of reasons to get a headset, they can be sure to find this as one of the top spots. Now, to finish off this video, I wanted to introduce a new and, in my opinion, more balanced grading method. I personally choose several aspects of the game that impacted gameplay the most. Not any specific number, just any I could think of. Then categorize these into either positive or negative, and mark them out of 100 points. I then ratio the totals of positive and negative aspects, respectively, and divide one by the other. Multiply the positive by 100% and you've got your score. And here's an example of how I figured this one out. And as just a quick point of reference, 100% is neutral, anything less than 100% is a negative, and anything more than is positive.